So I'll get the meeting underway. Good morning. My name is Stephen Hogg. I'm one of the category managers at UKUPC. Welcome to this webinar on meeting legislation obligations using Creditsafe, which is part of UKUPC's Learning and Development webinar series. Just before we start, I'd like to go over some housekeeping. There's a high number of attendees, which is great to see, but please keep your microphone muted and your camera switched off to help avoid any technical problems or distractions. We welcome comments and questions and ask that these are posted within the chat function during the presentation. There will be time for questions and answers at the end, but if there are any questions that can't be answered during the session, we will answer afterwards in writing. The session is being recorded and a copy of the slides will be made available. UKUPC will issue a feedback survey after the webinar, which would be grateful if you could complete to help shape future events. I'll now hand over to Michaela and Chris from Creditsafe. Thank you.
Cool, thanks very much, Stephen. Just to go through, I mean, obviously we Creditsafe partner with UKUPC, and we have done now for over 12 years. I think as part of the new contract that was awarded in September, part of the plan is to do lots of webinars and lots of sessions to make it more informative, to help you guys as members of the consortium to understand exactly what is available through Creditsafe, and how to maximise the contract that's in place at the moment. There's lots of things that Creditsafe could cover, but one thing that we've been asked to cover today is all around compliance. So I've brought my compliance director along with me, and we've got a presentation which we are going to run through. And again, this presentation has been sent on to Laura and Stephen and the team, so they'll send it on for you. And we've also organised some user guides on some of the KYC Protect, which is the compliance product that we use. So that'll be sent out afterwards for you as well. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen and share the presentation, and then I'll bring in my colleague Chris as well. Try and get into it. So today we're going to cover understanding compliance within your product suite. So this is currently available for you already within the products that are available. If you're not currently using it and would like access to it, Matt Johnson is the person to speak to, but you can also reach out to myself. Just by way of introduction, my name is Michaela Brown. I'm the account director, been with the Creditsafe and Graydon, which was prior to moving over to Creditsafe, for 24 years now. Provide dedicated support into partnership to clients like yourself, but deal with everything from just normal clients wanting credit reports right through to complex onboarding solutions, integrations, APIs, all those sorts of things. So yeah, my former background was credit management, and within that role I was obviously working with our procurement teams and the AP teams to try and help onboard suppliers, onboard making sure payments going out to people, you know, dealing with the right people and knowing who we were dealing with. So again, have a lot of experience in that area, certainly around the procurement side. Chris?
My name is Chris Hutchins. I'm the compliance director at Creditsafe. So Creditsafe manages different elements of risk, mainly financial risk. So anything that falls more into regulatory risk is in my remit. So anything that, from PEP and sanction screening to ID verification to tracing for fraud, all falls into me. And I'll be taking you through some of these products today.
Thanks, Chris. What I'm going to do, we've got a couple of slides here just about Creditsafe. We did an initial launch in September on Creditsafe, who Creditsafe are, just a little bit more about, you know, what we can do. But just for those who didn't attend that, just to give a little bit of a recap. So we have over 200 countries available online. So we're a truly global credit reference agency, providing credit reports on businesses and individuals. The business grows each year, so we're now, in the top 3 credit reference agencies in the UK, well, globally, I'd say as well. We've got access to customers. We've got 120,000 customers across 3 continents. Over 9,000 global data sources. We're only as good as the data that we have, and we do obviously keep our data sources up to date and try to partner with the best in breed or the best that are out there as our suppliers. And again, it keeps our database updated every day. We've got over 5.2 million linkages and business in over 45 countries where you can monitor clients. We do everything from, I call it the cradle to the grave. So it's right from onboarding customers through the sales cycle, providing new leads, finding new customers, cleaning up and housekeeping of data as well. Onboarding customers, making sure you're dealing with the right people, providing financial information and helping to speed up the process. We do that through a lot of automation. And then also fraud, making sure that we provide you with as much information to make sure that who you are dealing with is the right business and hopefully not a fraudster. Then moving on to credit control, we can obviously help look at the likelihood of a business becoming insolvent, providing you with daily alerts coming through on your businesses, on suppliers to make sure that they're still going to be around. Then moving on to collections, help you to understand the individuals and payment trends, help with collections, and monitor and manage your cash flow. And then through to customer relationship management, again, through our API tools that we have available, is making sure that you've got accurate information on your customers and it's literally right at your fingertips. And then we can also provide bespoke targeted data depending on what you need. So there's a whole raft of things that Creditsafe can provide you with. It's not just credit reports. So if there's anything that you need or you think, can Creditsafe help, you can either come through to myself direct or go through to Matt Johnson, who's the normal contact for this account. But we're here to help. I'll hand over to you now, Chris.
Okay, so today we're going to be going through compliance. So the first question we'll answer is, what is compliance? The first answer is, it's not the most exciting subject in the world, so I'll try my best to make it a little bit light-hearted and as enjoyable as it can be. But compliance from a Creditsafe perspective, what we consider compliance is anything that falls into regulatory risk rather than financial risk. To give a bit of context to the products I'm going to take you through and show you today, the reason that Creditsafe entered this space is because the element of business financial risk and regulatory risk work hand in hand. What we realized as a business credit reporting function is that we held a lot of data that can not only be used to manage financial risk, but feeds well into compliance risk as well. So from a supplier onboarding perspective, it's key. So we hold a lot of data like shareholder information, beneficial ownership information, things that you would need to establish before conducting business with an entity. We've also got the ability to verify the identities of those individuals then as well. So compliance in a nutshell is making sure that the person you're doing business with or the entity you're doing business with is the entity that you think you're doing business with, and then doing that check on them to make sure there's anything adverse or untoward in the background that you should be aware of that either you could monitor or would stop you conducting business with that entity or person. If you can move on to the next slide. So the first solution I'm going to talk to you about today is KYC Protect. So KYC Protect is our PEP and sanction screening tool. We've had PEP and sanction screening tools for around 10 years now. The difference between those and KYC Protect is it pulls in the Creditsafe data to build a full picture of the individual or business. Previously, the two data sets sat siloed away from each other. So you could check the business credit report, see the details on the business, then screen the individual separately. What KYC Protect allows you to do is gather that information, so establish shareholders, directorships, group structures, subsidiaries, ultimate beneficial ownership, and then pull that all into a screening platform. And what that means is that if one director is added to a sanctions list or there's some adverse media on them, you know it's got a knock-on effect to everyone else in the group as well. So if you move on to the next slide for me. So exactly what I pointed out at the start in the what is compliance question, we use KYC Protect to identify, verify, screen and analyze and monitor the commercial relationships. What that will look like from your perspective with supplier onboarding or managing suppliers is, first of all, establishing the business is who you think they are. So we can do that via using the credit report to establish the entity is based where you believe they're based. The individuals associated with that business are who you think they are, and they're trading under the same name that you know them as trading as. So once you've identified the business and done the KYB element of that, you can screen that entity to make sure they're not on any of the naughty lists. So not on any sanctions lists, watch lists. There's no political exposure on the board, or they're not partially or wholly state owned. And then look at any adverse media, which pulls together categories linked to financial crime and uses reputable news sources globally to help you build a full picture of the business that you're going to be conducting business with. Obviously, when it comes to screening an entity like this or an individual, just because they're not on a sanctions list today doesn't mean they're not going to be added to a sanctions list tomorrow. So we provide an ongoing monitoring solution as well, which will conduct screening on a daily basis to make sure any updates on that particular business or entity will be pushed straight into your mailbox or straight into your work list, so you're aware of them as soon as they happen. It's probably worth pointing out at this stage as well that we've not only can monitor for that, but we can monitor the credit report itself for any changes in shareholders, directorships, addresses, even credit ratings and limits for financial risk as well. Jump on to the next slide for me, please, Michaela. So we use Accurate Risk Intelligence. The benefit of us using a third party for the data is it allows us to be agile in the market. So we constantly conduct quality data checks on our suppliers in the market, and we pick the best in class or the best data supplier for us at the time. We're not afraid to swap out a data provider if one falls short and replace it with another one, which a process that we went through just a year ago. Accurate Risk Intelligence have been in the market over 15 years. They started as part of the UK police force and then went into a private entity and grew out to look at global adverse data rather than just UK adverse data. They've currently got 1.6 million PEP records, which come from a variety of sources. It's completely global data set. There's 5.3 million profiles in that data set itself, and you can see, I won't go through every stat one by one, but it's quite a comprehensive data set that we use, and it's quite intuitive in the way it's put together to give you pulling data from different sources and give you a view of a business or an individual in one place to save you consistently Googling and clicking on links to find out these details. If you jump on to the next slide. So everything we do is instantaneous. So it's as source lists are updated, so as sanctions lists are updated, as adverse media articles are updated, everything happens in real time. So as you monitor an entity or you screen an entity, you know that data is going to be completely up to date. You may notice there's historical articles in there when you pull it, when you pull records. That's either because there's still a lot of context in that article, even though it's or something you should be aware of, even though it's an older article. But we're consistently screening and updating these in real time. With global lists like sanctions lists, watch lists, sort of straightforward, they're either on it or they're not. It's quite simple for us to update them in real time. And then there's a team of over 600 researchers scouring local news and national news outlets for reputable news sources which outline the details to add context to why these individuals are added to lists or why they've got a report that appears within the system. If you jump on to the next slide for me. Oh, I think it's got a bit stuck, is it?
Oh, it's moved on my screen.
Oh, if it's moved on yours, then it must be moving on everyone else's. Maybe it's just mine that's a little bit slow. Okay. So the way the solution works is it pulls everything into what we refer to as a profile. So a profile is a way of grouping searches together. It's a bit like an account page on a CRM system where you manage all your risk. The reason we do this is two reasons, actually. The first reason is we want to make sure that we're pulling all the shareholders, subsidiaries, holding companies, UBOs, directors, shareholders, all into one place. So when we add that to monitoring, we know that any risk associated with any one of those entities has got a knock-on effect to everyone else in the group. So that's the first reason we put everything in what we call a profile. The second reason is, as I mentioned, it's like an account page on a CRM system. So you can leave notes, associate risks, send it to other individuals within your organization, put a set escalation process in, and it keeps it all in that one place within the solution. If you could jump on to the next slide for me. There we are. So to summarize, before we jump into a bit of a demonstration of what the solution looks like, the whole purpose of this is to speed up due diligence. The more time we can save you going to different products and different sources is time you could be spending mitigating risk. So what we're trying to do is automate as much of that process as we can and take the legwork away from you. We'll give you the group structures and linkages, which is completely key in when you're on board in a business, because you want to know who's surrounding it, who's associated with it, who actually is in control of that business. Centralizing the data as a whole, so you're looking at financial risk and regulatory risk in one place, again, streamlines that onboarding process, allowing you to receive real-time alerts for anything that's changing. It's worth noting there's also a batch screening functionality available, so you may have a set list of suppliers you're already screening. You don't have to key them in one by one. We can upload them in a batch and screen at a time that suits you, so you can remediate those then. And we can filter and change it by what's of interest to you. So even though we give you access to all the data, it may be the case that you're not interested in political exposure or insolvency, you're only interested in sanctions. You can pick and choose the data sets that are relevant to you right down to the granular level of the individual list. A lot of our customers will use this because they're probably interested in the new UK sanctions list, the OFAC list from the US, the EU, the UN lists, but they may not be interested if someone's on an Iranian sanctions list, for instance, because they don't trade in that country. You can pick and choose what's relevant for you, meaning that when you get results, you know that there's actually going to be something that you need to look at and review, rather than having to sift through hundreds and hundreds of false positives. Everything within the solution is collected in a full audit trail, click-by-click audit trail, which shows the user and the task that was undertaken while the product was used. No one wants to do these checks. They are a bit of a pain. It's something we have to do. It's a bit of a box ticking exercise. So the most important thing is to be able to prove if we are audited or we're caught dealing with a sanctioned business that we did all the due diligence that we needed to do at the beginning, so the fault doesn't lie with us. And that's the importance of the full audit trail there, that you can just export and send it to whoever you need to, or show it to whoever you need to. I think that's it for that slide.
Cool.
So I think what we might do now is jump into a bit of a high-level demo. As Michaela mentioned at the start, you all will have access to this or can request access to this. So what I advise is you log on to the solution yourself, maybe try some companies you know that are sanctioned or know you should receive some information on, and see what the results look like. We'll run through it quite quickly, just show you the basics of how it works, show you some results on some businesses you would expect to have results. So if you're starting with a business, the best way to always start is with the credit report and go via the credit report. You can jump straight to the sanctions, to PEPM sanctions screening, but if you start with the credit report, it gives you the option to pull different details away from it. Now we'll start with Creditsafe. As you can see within the report, it's got a lot of financial risk elements in it. Not all of them are relevant from a regulatory onboarding perspective, but things like directors and shareholders, group structure information, they'll all be quite important for you to know when you're establishing who it is you're actually doing business with. Now, if we click the Export to KYC Protect button, what that's going to do is it's going to pull all the relevant information from the report itself and populate this sort of pre-screen for the to create the profile. From here, you can pick and choose who you're interested in doing. You'll notice that each profile needs a unique name. That's only because for the audit trail. So when we go back to the audit trail, we don't want multiple profiles named Creditsafe. You can add a unique number in here or some sort of reference number. If we just stay on the top section, once they're pulled into the profile, you'll have the name of the business itself that the profile is based on. You'll have the organization number, which we'll pull from whatever the local registry is. The safe number, which is our unique identifier. And then the internal ID is completely up to you. So we would imagine that you'll have an internal CRM number or something you tie back your records to. We always advise using this because if you come to integrate or pull out results at a different date, it makes it far easier to tie back to your database. You can assign risk to the profile as a whole, and that's completely up to you what that risk status is. It could be a high, low, medium risk status. You can also do that to the individual entities within the profile. The assign to user is used as an internal escalation process. So if you've got a head of compliance maybe and a team of data analysts, if you come across something that's sanctioned and you need to assign it to someone at a higher level on another team, you can use that to escalate it within. And when you escalate it, it's going to record it in the audit trail to show the process you've undertaken. So KYC review date is a bit of an interesting one. If I'm being honest, it's just a bit of a posh reminder. Some of our customers choose not to use the monitoring function because they may have a small number of clients or know them really well. All that's going to do is add that add that profile to the top of your work list at the date you set it, just to remind you in 6-12 months time, you probably need to have a look at this again. Comments and notes, quite self-explanatory, and then attachments will always pull across the PDF version of the business credit report if you started with the point of the business, so you've got a snapshot in time of exactly what that looked like. Within the solution, there's two different types of monitoring, and the reason we split them out is because they work in different ways. So the business monitoring will monitor the company report that you've looked at. So we're looking for any changes of any changes within that report, whether it be company name, directors, shareholders, ratings, limits, addresses, will alert you to that. The reason we split that out is because we can always establish who a business is. We know that report is for that specific business. When it comes to sanctions screening, not everyone's going to be on a sanctions list. So a lot of the time, we're going to get no results back. So the way the monitoring works there is we take the search criteria we're using and we ping the API every night to see if there's anything new added to a previous result or any new results you wouldn't have seen previously. We'll split out the business, the key parties and the UBOs, just because key parties and UBOs tend to be individuals rather than businesses, and there's slightly different data sets we're able to screen against those than we are businesses. For instance, we can use date of birth, nationality, things that we wouldn't be able to use for a business. We've also got access to things like the insolvency register, disqualified directors, PEP levels on an individual, which wouldn't apply to a business themselves. So if you click the screen button, you can choose to screen that entity. You can choose to either just screen the entity name or any other previous aliases we've got against them. And if you click screen, then what that's going to do is it's going to go off to the database and it's going to pull back any results. Now, Creditsafe is a good and a bad example because we're sort of showing you here that we're not on any sanctions list, which is good news because you've got a contract signed with us. But what we'll do is when we get through the profile, and I explain this, we'll give you an example that does have a hit on it to show you what the information looks like when it comes back. So if you jump into Open Alerts on the tab, Open Alerts is going to tell you where there's any alerts you've got back that haven't been remediated yet. So if you've got a result and you haven't chosen whether it's a false positive or a true match, or it's just been left in limbo, it'll appear here. And then the audit trail is in the report. It's a bit of a mini audit trail, which is just recording everything that is within that profile. We've got a bigger audit trail which contains everything that's happened as well, but this is just a snapshot for this specific profile we've just set up. So Michaela, if you jump to the KYC Protect drop-down menu on the left-hand side and go to screen. And we'll try, select individual. We'll show you what an individual adverse report looks like. So you may have heard of this guy. If we put Donald Trump in, and we'll see what comes back. Oh, we've got Donald Trump there.
Oh, sorry.
So Donald Trump will search, and I'll go through the report in a second. Before we do that, I'll just show you about the match thresholds. If you scroll up slightly, so there's a number of different data sets we can pick and choose. So you'll see the sanctions bodies here. We can pick and choose what sanctions bodies we're interested in, and we can choose the subcategories we screen against as well. So we may only be interested in current sanctions. We may want to look at just previous sanctions. We may want a mix of a few. You can pick and choose what you're screening against. You haven't got to do this every time in the settings. You can pick and choose universal settings that all your team will use. We can add things in like date of birth and gender to help reduce the results, but as a lot of the sanctions lists won't contain date of birth, the most reliable way of getting to the individual you're actually looking for is to give the full name and the nationality if you can. They're the ones that make the most difference. The different PEP tiers relate to how powerful the individual is with their political exposure. So heads of state, cabinet ministers are going to be a PEP tier 1. PEP tier 2 will be MPs, relatives, close relatives of PEP tier 1, and then PEP 3 is your local politicians. So if we scroll down, where you'll see the little blacked out icon, you will have, if you hover over that, about 80% of our profiles or our reports will have a picture of the individual. The only place we tend not to is if they're a minor or if they're just on a data set like insolvency, where it's difficult to pinpoint an exact picture of that individual. So if we click in and view details for Donald Trump, we'll see there's a couple of flattering photos of him at the top there. We'll give in the about info, we'll give the details of the first name, last name, basic details, and any aliases that he's known under. We'll always search on aliases with the same weighting as the first name, just because those, as you can imagine, that are listed on sanctions lists don't always keep the same name or don't particularly want you to know who they are. So we'll always search on an alias as well at the same rate that we search the name you've applied. Contact and addresses, not always completely reliable. It's just known addresses for that individual. For the President of the United States, it's quite easy to find someone. A lot of the time, we won't have a residential address just because of the type of information that we're displaying. AML categories will give you an overview of each category they've matched against and the source information for why they've matched. So we've got sanctions, enforcement lists, political exposure, and adverse media. If you want to see the full list with the summary information, if you go to sources in the top corner. Sorry, Michaela, I'm making you work here by clicking around
everywhere.
And,
all right.
And each of the sources there will provide you with an article or a source for how we've come to the conclusion that that individual had adverse media or is politically exposed or a link to the direct sanctions list. Each of them provide a summary, but where available, we'll provide a PDF as well. Because they're third-party links, we can't always guarantee they're going to be live, so we try and hold the information for you. If you ever do come across a dead link using it, just report it to us and we'll find you an updated source for that individual. So if we scroll back to the top, business links and individual links. So these are not the full business links in the way the group structure would be on the credit report. What these relate to are other individuals that have got adverse information against them or other businesses that have got adverse information against them that are known to be linked to in this case, Donald Trump. We'll give a detail of the relationship to the individual or business, and then you're free to click on any of these and view their full report as well to help you build context. So if you get a supplier, for instance, and there's a someone politically exposed on the board, you may want to know who else he's associated with, and you can click through this way and download those reports or add them to the profile that you're looking at. So if we jump to been through all of those. So just if we jump to reports on the left-hand menu, Michaela, I'm just conscious I said I'd make this high level, but I'm going through everything in a bit more detail than I wanted to. This is where you get the MI information from the system. So if you want to pull the raw data from it, so this can be used for either auditing purposes, so you can see how it's using, or from a HR perspective. So you'll be able to see which of your data analysts are using it most, what they're using, when they're using it. You'll also be able to pull analytics from this, like where your highest risks are, where the countries are, where there's the most entities with a high risk. We basically give you the raw information to do with what you want to there. If we jump into uploads, so there's a basic spreadsheet that you fill out with your details to upload them. So if you've got a backlog of customers you want to screen in one go, you can just use the batch upload function, and then any matches to those will appear in the alert section or your profile section, where it'll appear in your work list, and you can work through those one by one as you upload them. If you've got thousands, what we always advise is to do them in smaller batches. The smaller batches, the better, because it gives you access to go through them and remediate any results or discount any results before you add the next one in. It's capable of doing 250,000 entities at a time, but it can get quite messy and quite confusing. So we'd advise no more than 10,000 at a time, just to give you a chance to get ahead of it.
What I'll say on the batch, just sorry, Chris.
Okay.
What I'll say on the batch work is that I've done this for a couple of members already, and we wouldn't expect you to have all of the individuals' details behind the businesses. So for your suppliers, all I'd need is a list of your suppliers. We will append the relevant director shareholders, PSCs, UBOs, and their reference details, then send the file back along with all the relevant information, and then I would work with you. So we'd book a Teams call and show you how to upload it. So don't think you've got to have all of the data. We can provide that data for you to then upload it. All right. Thanks, Chris.
No worries. And then the last bit, if you just jump on the settings, you might have to click off that first, and then on the settings, what the setting page does is just allows you to put general rules in place for searching and monitoring. So you may want to consistently search the same way, so you've got a uniform approach to onboarding. You can pick and choose the lists you're interested in and the match threshold. So the match threshold relates to how wide we cast the net, essentially. The lower the number, the broader the search, so you're more likely to get false positives. The tighter the number, you'll only get exact matches, but you may be more likely to miss something if there's a slight change in spelling, or you miss off a limited or a PLC on a business name. What we advise is somewhere in between 85 to 95% is the sweet spot, but every customer is different. So I would do a bit of trial and error as to what you'd want coming back, or the amount you'd want to remediate for each for each case. We've got a document we can share explaining exactly what you would expect to get back for each of those match thresholds. So that pretty much takes us through it. As Michaela mentioned earlier on, we can arrange training if you want a bit more detailed, but what I would advise is just get access, go in and have a play with it, use some examples, some high profile examples, and get in touch with the data and the details that you've got there. I think if we jump back to the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So anti-money laundering, I'm going to touch on just one of the concepts and one of the reasons that we do this, and we provide this service, and then touch on another product that you don't take currently, but it's worth you knowing that we have. So anti-money laundering is exactly what it says on the tin. We're trying to reduce the risk of money laundering through our business or organization. Some do this for reputational risk, others do it because there's a regulatory need for them to do it. In your case, I think it would probably be the former rather than the latter, but it's worth knowing how you avoid this. So there's a number of ways that we reduce the risk of money laundering. The first one is to verify the business or the individual you're doing business with. If you can verify they're a real person and you've got their details on file, it's far less likely they're going to use you as a vehicle for money laundering, because if the police get involved at a later date, you've got those records in place for you to pass on to them. The second way is by looking through the adverse information we provide through KYC Protect and other products to make sure that that individual hasn't been convicted of similar crimes previously, or that business hasn't been found guilty of similar crimes previously. Should we jump to the next slide? We provide the sort of the blessing and the curse of Creditsafe is because our main function is business credit reports. It means we sell to anyone and everyone. As you notice, you don't fit into one of these categories, so there's not a regulatory responsibility onto you. But what I always say to clients is, if you think compliance is expensive, try non-compliance, because a lot of these fines are punishment based. So they don't give you the outright guidance of what you need to be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, but they'll be quick to jump down your throat should you be found guilty of dealing with a sanctioned entity. So it's always worth doing it for reputational risk, especially in the space you're in, where I should imagine reputation is key. It's worth doing these checks with the beginning of onboarding a supplier, because you don't want to be found in the paper doing business with an entity or a business that has been found guilty of terrorism charges or human trafficking. Using a solution like KYC Protect mitigates that risk at the first instance, so you're aware of who you're dealing with before it gets to that point.
I think I will say at this point as well is that in September last year, legislation came in that anybody, any business, anybody dealing with anybody overseas or directors overseas does need to make sure that they aren't on any PEPSA sanction lists. So again, just to back up what Chris has said there, I think it's just to make sure that you know who you're dealing with and you do carry out the checks to make sure if you are dealing with an international director or an international business, that you have carried out the checks and make sure that there aren't any compliance issues.
Thank you. The next way we do this is by verifying the identity of an individual. So from what I'm led to believe, in your case, it's not necessarily individuals you'll be dealing with in a procurement function, but businesses. But there is an element of individuals there, because you've got the individuals that are around the business, be they directors, shareholders, beneficial owners. And it's always worth verifying that they are who they say they are. So when a business comes in, what a lot of our clients will do is they'll establish who those individuals are around the business and then verify their identity using one of two formats. The first one is to use data-driven ID checks. So the way these work is we go to reputable data sources like credit bureau information, electoral roll information, BT landline registry, national ID register, things like this. And what we're looking to do is verify the information they've provided us against one of those databases to make sure that person exists. The risk with this is, if I was to give Michaela's details, then I would pass this type of ID check, but obviously I'm not Michaela. So there's no way of knowing who's providing you those details. We can verify the details are correct, but we don't know who's actually providing us those details. And the way we get around this is by using a biometric and document validation journey. So if you jump to the next slide, I think. I think I've skipped ahead a few, so you might need to jump to there we are.
Yeah.
So ID Verification Plus is our all singing, all dancing ID solution. So what this will do is it will verify a document of the individual. You've probably been through one of these journeys if you've ever set up a bank account online or applied for a mortgage. Any financial institution you work with, the vast majority of them will use a process similar to this now. So we verify the individual's ID document is correct, so it's a real document, it hasn't been tampered with in any way. Then we'll ask the customer to take a selfie, or we call it a selfie, but it's a split-second snapshot, where we're verifying that individual carrying out the journey is the same individual that document belongs to. And we do this by measuring the distances between key features on the face. So obviously passports last 10 years, people put on weight, they lose weight, they grow facial hair. What shouldn't change is their skeletal structure. We're also making sure that that individual is live while they're doing that. And what I mean by that is not that they're taking a picture of a dead body, but rather they're not taking a picture of a picture. And the way we do that is by capturing slight head movement, slight eye movement, flushing of the face. So we verify they're a real person and they're carrying out that journey in real time, and they're not trying to fraudulently gain credit or services. From there, what we'll do is we'll verify the details provided in their document and by themselves are correct by using that data-driven ID check, and screen them against the PEP and sanction databases as well. The whole journey itself takes your customer about a minute if they've got their ID to hand. And by the time, in a split second, once they've finished, it arrives back on your dashboard and you've got the full view of that individual in one place. It can be used for a whole lot of different reasons as well. So we may want to use open banking to make sure that details they're providing us on financial matters are correct. Source of funds, so if they're applying for a mortgage, we may want to know that. We can use it for age verification, AML, right to work checks is another key one. So if you've got any individuals that are joining your HR departments, will know you need to verify that individual has got the right to work in the UK. So we provide that as part of this service as well. And we might have spoiled the surprise that we're finished, but Michaela just jumped ahead to the thank you at the end. So we're a little bit under time. Sorry, we flew through that, but we'd like to invite any questions you may have. I'm not sure if there are any at the moment. Let me take a look. Do the checks also cover the Home Office prescription list? Yes, they do. What I can do is after this, I'll send out a full list of sources. There's quite a number of sources, but it's an interactive document where you can look up specific lists on it. How are you addressing AI to prevent fraud, e.g. in photos? So there's a number of ways we do this by people far cleverer and more technical than me that sit in the background of the document validation tools. So the machine learning that goes into place, we consistently update it with how documents are being fraudulently created and recreated. Same with false identities, so AI generated identities. Again, I can provide updated details on exactly how that works in documentation, but it is being taken into account. The question about the Procurement Act, the 2023 Procurement Act, I'm not I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I will be able to find out for you. So if you allow me to come back to you on that one, I'll come back to that. And the question from Amy on is it part of the subscription? I'll hand that over to Michaela and Stephen, because I'm not aware of the commercial arrangement here.
Yeah, it's part of your subscription already. So you've already got access to it. I think in the profile setups Matt has organised, because I think he allows and allocates so many credits to each account. So if you're not currently using it at the moment and you do want to start using it, then have a conversation with Matt, and Matt will organise it for you.
And I think that answers probably Claire's question as well, where what's involved in the contract. Did you say you could send us a guide on how to use KYC Protect? Yes, I can. I'll share that with all of you as part of the documentation. There's also within the product itself, if you go to the profiles page, there's a place where you can download it. So if you lose it or any other staff needs access to, we've got the full user guide within there.
We're organising a separate user guide as well that'll come out through Laura and the team on how to use it. So when you're going to do a company check, and then if you want to do an individual one. So what we'll do is Chris and I'll make sure that we're not duplicating any documentation when we send it over. We'll just send it over in a pack for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, and to answer Leslie's questions, where I work, I do credit check on companies, but for some reason I cannot do checks on individuals. Would this be the way our profile is set? Not necessarily. If with a business, we can start at the point of the credit report, because we can provide the business details. With the point of an individual, you'd start from the screen on the left-hand menu. So if you use the drop-down for KYC Protect, and then you click on the screen function, it's just a different starting point. So it will be in your subscription.
But if you have any problems, Leslie, again, just give either myself or Matt a shout and we'll help. Yeah,
we do. Patricia's question, do we also flag modern slavery? Yeah, modern slavery is one of the categories that we would cover. I'll send the full list over of exactly what's in scope, but modern slavery is one of those that will be covered. think that's
it for the
all. Yeah,
questions.
that's all
Yeah.
it for the questions, unless there are any others. As Michaela mentioned previously as well, we've got a full training team and support team as well as Michaela and myself here. So that if you think of any questions after or you're watching this on a recording, please feel free to get in touch with Creditsafe, and we'll help you as best we can use the services and solutions.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you. Just a thank you to the attendees and a reminder to please watch out for the UKUPC feedback survey and return that as soon as possible. And I'd also like to pass on thanks to Michaela and Chris on your behalf for a very interesting and useful presentation. And as I say, we'll send out a recording and the slides and any other information following. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice afternoon and
Thank
weekend.
you, everyone.
And you. Bye.
Bye.